we are going to start our raw edge applique book cover by first finding your book cover and printing it out on a piece of paper. Then the supplies that you need are, you're going to go ahead and need some light easy steam. This one's Pellon. This is our go-to favorite one, but we also have the Warm Company's light easy steam. It needs to be a light easy steam, no heavy, just light. And then of course you're going to need your various fabrics that you want to use. And a lot of these, you're not going to need a lot. You're going to need from 1/4 to 1/8 of a yard. And some of these you can just steal from your stash to use. Next, what you want to do is form a light board or hold up to the window. Or if you have a clear top for your sewing machine like I do, you can form your own light board by, I had to raise it, so don't mind the first aid kit and this cute little bloom box because I didn't have enough room for the flashlight to fit under. But I would recommend using the phone flashlight. But because I'm using my phone to record, we're using a regular flashlight. So what I want to do is, because I want this to be reversed for when I put it onto my easy steam, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to go ahead and take the pen and trace around all of the details that I need. Now that I have everything traced, and this is on the reverse, remember, this is the way I want it to come out, but I have to reverse it to be able to get it onto the fabric. So everything is reversed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my easy steam, I'm going to place it over top, and I'm going to start tracing out all of the areas that are white, and then separately I will trace out the areas that are black. The areas that are just any different color is going to be traced separately. And it does not matter what color you choose. You can try to go as close to the picture as possible, or you can do entirely different colors. It does not matter. It is completely up to you and your artistic inspiration. So that being said, I also wanted to point out, when I did trace around everything, I made it more simple. I did not trace around the extra edges here because that will be impossible to try to sew around. It becomes a real hassle, and we just want to get the gist, and it's still going to be beautiful no matter what. So let's go ahead and start tracing out. And I'll start with the baby penguin because, oh, why not? He's cute. As you're tracing out, make sure you label each piece. You can label it with the color that you're going to use, or you can label it by marking exactly what part of the penguin it is. I would also recommend that for the black part, make that a little bit bigger so that your white will fit over top of it. Now that I got everything painstakingly traced on, now it becomes more of the fun part. So you're going to take paper scissors, not your fabric scissors, paper scissors, and you're just going to go ahead and cut out the shapes haphazardly. Leave room around each. Don't try to be perfect and cut them all out perfectly, because you are going to have to place these on your fabric, and you're going to want to leave that little bit of room to fully cut and perfect. Little tip, if you see these pieces that don't have anything drawn onto them, save them. They can be used for other projects. Now that I have all of my pieces cut out with the color, so this is all the white pieces, this is the giant black piece, this is the background for the rock, I have little beaks and feet over here. I'm now going to go ahead and place them onto my fabric. So these are the fabrics I decided that I wanted to use for this. And as you can see, nothing is perfectly matched, but I'm kind of keeping in the relative ballpark of the original illustration. I have all my fabric ready, and I have my iron. It's on full blast, plenty of water in there to create steam. What I'm gonna do is I need to turn my fabric over, because I do not want to get the sticky stuff on the front side of my fabric. I want it on the wrong side. And I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna peel off the back side of the paper so that the glue, you can see the glue is there, so that the glue is still attached to the drawing side. Then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick it on. I don't wanna waste a lot of space, so I'll stick it as close as I can there. And then always, 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 always use a cloth to cover. You do not want the sticky stuff on your iron, and you do not want it to get on your ironing board. The fabric will save me from getting it on the ironing board, but right now I need to have a cloth over top to save it from my iron. Then you go ahead, take your hot iron and press it down and hold for about 10 seconds. I kind of just jiggle her around and kind of guesstimate. It doesn't take long. And there, now you can see it's perfectly bonded on. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that with all my other pieces. Okay, so now that I have all of my pieces ironed down, I get to cut them out. And I am going to use these extremely sharp K Buckley scissors. I love these. This is what they are. They really are the perfect scissors. They are serrated little scissors, and they're really sharp and they cut perfectly. But you don't have to use these. You can use any other kind of little scissors you have, but it needs to be strong enough to go through the paper and the fabric. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut all of these out. Baby penguin. Extra little tip, if you have fabric with blank spots on it like this, or you had already cut it off and it was a blank spot, save this, because you might use it again and now you don't have to go through the whole thing of ironing on the steam machine. Now that I have all of my pieces cut out, I can go ahead and stick them on. I'm going to have just my reference here, so I know what I'm doing. And here are all of my little pieces. And I'm always going to stick with doing the background piece first. Now, the blue piece I cut out larger than the actual book cover to give seam allowance and to trim back later. So what you do is you go ahead and you peel off your backing, and then this is nice and tacky, so I can set it down and it won't fall off, but I can also pick it back up and place it in a different spot. Nifty tip, if you're having trouble peeling up from the edges, you can take your scissors and lightly score through the paper. You don't want to score too hard because you don't want to cut through your actual fabric. But by lightly scoring, I'm able to now pick up and pull off the rest of the pieces of paper. Now that everything is placed on where I want it, I can go ahead and take my pressing cloth, put it over top, move this out of the way, and we will iron everything down to secure. And voila. Now it's time to stitch. Now I'm going to start stitching, and you can do this two ways. You could either do a really tight zigzag around everything, which I would recommend if you ever plan on washing this. If you're not, then go ahead and straight stitch right around the very edge. And you're gonna do that with everything. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do everything else. On the back, I used the same thread as I used on the front. And if you're really picky, you can go ahead and change your bobbin every time. I am not that picky. So I'm gonna keep this thread because it's kind of blends with everything on the front for my bobbin. So, but I am gonna change the thread color for everything else. So this is gonna be black, this is gonna be white, this is gonna be close to gold, as best I can. Before I continue stitching, I'm going to go ahead and mark with a friction pen all of the lines that I want to stitch. So if you see in the picture of the cover, you can see that there's this black line that goes down and separates the two penguins. I want to go ahead and mark that. I'm using a friction pen because this irons off. It's great to use for applique. It irons off your fabric and doesn't show up. And if you accidentally, though, do iron off a mark that you really wanted and it's hard to go back and mark it, you can go ahead and stick this in the freezer for a couple minutes and it will gently come back. Not fully, it's very light, but it does come back enough for you to see and remark. So if you ever take this out in the winter and you hadn't washed it, just be aware that your lines will come back. But if you do end up doing the zigzag motion around everything so that you can wash it, the friction pen will just disappear forever. But right now, this is what I'm gonna use. And I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I continue my lines. I'm also going to go ahead and mark around my eyes because the color I chose for my eyes is really hard to see. I do want to stitch this dot and I do want to stitch around the eyes. I probably will do that in black just to make them stand out more. And I'm going to do that with all of the eyes. I'm going to give the beak a little smile in there. I think I might have to use a different colored pen to show that up on the blue. These do come in a lot of different colors. There's red, there's purple, there's just all sorts of different colors. I do also want lines on the black part, and this does not show up well on black. So I'm gonna use a chalk pen, and this is kind of funky. It's got these little serrated bits, but when you press down, little bits of chalk dust come out. And so then I can use this to draw my lines, and then I can go ahead and stitch over everything. Okay, here is my finished piece. I went ahead and did a little zigzag on the baby penguin to give him some texture, and I added some of the extra movement with the rocks in the background. You don't have to worry about the title, that's not part of it. I mean, if you want to try to do the title, go ahead, that's up to you. I left a lot of space going around because eventually I am going to trim this all down, but I also wanted to leave enough space for my 1/4 inch seam so that I can connect everything later on if I want to, or I can just go ahead and put more of the steamicine on the back and stick this onto a larger piece, which is probably what I will do. I'll probably just stick this onto a larger block with my other books and just go from there. Can't wait to see what you will create. Have fun.